Jenny.
Hey, Chelsea, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Things have gotten a little chaotic. Definitely never been in this situation before, but none of us have, right?
I read an article, I forget who the wedding planner was, but she said something along the lines of you don't hire a wedding planner because things are all flowers and rainbow and sunshine. You hire a wedding planner for when shit hits the fan.
We've had 10 weddings and events reschedule at this point.
Have your couples been able to keep their same vendors or they had to make some adjustments?
We have had one wedding that had to change their band because there was date conflict. Every other wedding, we've been able to get all of the vendors that they previously had on board for the next day, which is, kind of unheard of.
We're talking florist, entertainment, photographer, videographer, venue. That's got to be a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we start with the venue, figure out what they have open. And then in most cases, our clients have been looking at like maybe 2 dates at a time. So then we'll run through and contact all the vendors, figure out who can do which dates and kind of start, amassing what might be the best possibility.
And for rescheduling the weddings, are they sticking to 2020 or are they postponing to 2021?
So we've had 8 weddings postponed at this point. 6 of them are remaining in 2020. So it looks like most of them, we're trying to keep them within the year.
Even though 8 out of the 10 that you had were able to reschedule for 2020, I feel like the longer that this goes on, I could see people needing to postpone to 2021. And I'm all for that. I'm safety over everything. From a business perspective, the more 2020 weddings that are going to be postponed to 2021, that's going to create extra weddings, which is great. But that means for couples, they may not have their pick of all the vendors because we can only take on maybe 1 or 2 weddings per day. And if it's a prime wedding date and you have all these extra 2020 weddings coming into 2021, you're not going to have your pick of the litter.
No, absolutely. I was actually talking to clients last night that are getting married end of September, and they have a couple things left to book. And I actually told them, you need to book this stuff like right now because all these dates are shifting back and a lot of them are landing in the fall or early winter. Get your vendors locked down because we are seeing so much movement right now that, we're doing the best we can to accommodate all these date changes, but you can only do so much work in a day. If someone knows they want to use someone and a vendor is important to them, they need to get it booked now, whether it's for, postponement or new business or, whatever you're going to do.
With rescheduling between all the different vendors, what's that experience been like?
One of our first clients that postponed had kind of the impression that it was going to be difficult and that the vendors were going to give them a tough time. You and I know better than anyone, we work in a fantastic industry, especially in the Metro Detroit area, and I am so impressed with all of our vendors. No one has given any of my clients any trouble. Everyone knows this is a super weird situation. No one's doing this because they just want to postpone their wedding. We're just working together to try and find a date that works for everyone. And we see where everyone's just shifting their retainer payments to the new date. We want to do the wedding, right? We don't want to give the work up. We want to see it through. We like what we do. Major high five to anyone I've spoken to because you guys are killing it for us, man. And we really appreciate that for us and for our clients, because the situation sucks.
Man, I am hurting for my couples and I'm just dealing with the couple. Whereas you guys, it's the roster of vendors and going back because every time you find a new date, you have to go and cross-reference that with 6 other people and keeping your clients calm and comforting them because I'm sure that they're all stressed about this situation. How far in advance do invitations go out and save the dates go out?
So what we're seeing in cases like that is most people are just sending a follow-up postcard to all their guests, just saying, hey, we had to reschedule. Here's the new date, same time, same place, same party. And then most are just requesting an RSVP via text or email, because at this point, that's the easiest thing to do. Save your energy up and we're going to party when it happens.
And we will be able to eventually. I know that this is a stressful time for couples and vendors, but the silver lining is eventually we're going to be able to have this wedding. We're going to be able to celebrate with your friends and family.
This is going to make it even more of an amped up celebration because we're all going to be going crazy by then. Everyone's going to be ready for a party. We're all stuck right now. I like to see people still planning weddings. It's refreshing because it is hard if you're looking at getting married next year. What are you supposed to do? And I feel like a lot of people are confused on that. And my viewpoint is like, game on, man. Plan it like you would be normally. This isn't going to last forever. We're going to get back to normal eventually.
I am all for planning right now. Maybe you aren't exactly to the booking point right now, but using this time to at least do your research, reach out to vendors, get quotes from them, find the ones that you really like. Then when everything goes back to normal, you'll already kind of have a clear idea of who you want to work with, how you want your wedding to look.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think what a lot of people aren't thinking about is that most of the businesses in our industries are small businesses and they're run by individuals. And there's a good chunk of our businesses in the industry that use this money to pay their mortgage. It is a way to support your local small business. If you want to use the vendor, talk to them, get the info and book them.
I'm curious how couples who are engaged right now, who are spending all this time together.
This is a real test.
No, it's totally true.
And if you're going through this pandemic right now and you don't choose Rihanna, We Found Love in a Hopeless Place for some part of your wedding day, grand entrance, first dance, you're doing it wrong. Because this time sucks.
You're totally right. One of my clients from like 5 years ago was talking to me on Facebook yesterday. She lives in New York. And she literally was like, well, we're in week 4 of this and we still really like each other. So I'm like, you are massively winning now, because that says something.
And this together, good times and bad times and a pandemic. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Do you ever think we would be involved in something like this? Like, ever in the history of the world, this was not even remotely on my like radar at all.
No, even when the NBA was like, oh, we're canceling the rest of our season, I was like, oh, that's a bummer. It literally did not hit me at all that if the NBA, that's making millions and millions of dollars off of events, is going to cancel. I'm like, weddings are still going to happen.
The interesting thing is, I think some of these weddings we have coming up in the next few months may still be able to keep their date, but they may have to make adjustments on their guest count, and that's going to be a whole nother thing that we got to figure out how to navigate. How do you go through and tell a chunk of your guests that they're no longer invited to the wedding, and that's hard.
I mean, if I was a guest and I got nixed on it, if I'm not your close person, if I'm like your coworker and if we're not super close, I'm not going to be offended. I would completely understand. From a venue standpoint, have you seen or do you think that they will adjust minimums in the event that happens?
So I've asked a few, they'll remain nameless for the sake of argument, but I have spoken to 2 venues about that exact thing. And they did tell me that at least for this chunk of time, where people were already booked and they're having to shift, or more importantly, if they are still holding the wedding on their date, they are going to work with minimums with people, because they're going to understand that, first of all, there might be a government mandate on how many people you can have, but even if there's not, if you have a lot of people traveling, there's going to be a chunk of people that either aren't comfortable leaving their areas or aren't allowed to. So it's definitely something where we are going to see an impact on guest count.
I know on a couple of videographer forums, people have been discussing how the guest count is going to be affected. And we've been talking about offering online streaming services. So somebody that may not be able to come will at the very least be able to watch it online, or even if you don't do an online streaming, eventually your wedding video is going to be online.
I love that. I love the option of online streaming, because it'll be a while before everybody can move around freely. And even at that point, you may not think it's safe for your 85-year-old grandma to attend. You could have a streaming service. I mean, that is so cool. That is such a good idea. Love that. Etiquette wise, you are supposed to do some kind of receiving line, or you're supposed to visit every table. We had requested early on that our clients just nix those. Just do a general thank you speech at your reception to make your guests feel more comfortable as well, because you're going to go to the table and they're going to be like, do I hug you? Do I not? Do I touch you? So I think even when things start to come back to normal, we should probably do things like that to make our guests feel a little more comfortable. Something like receiving, just ignoring a receiving line for the time being. Then there's some food concerns. Obviously, they're finding, this isn't transferred through food, but I think for a while we'll be hesitant with things like buffets or displayed appetizers, some simple changes that maybe need to be made so that people do feel a little more comfortable when when we get back to being able to hold these weddings. We don't need to hug anybody, do some awesome dancing on the dance floor. So
there you go. Less time going around to tables, more time to dance.
Come on, let's party, man.
I've been having dance parties in my living room. The Facebook Live free concerts have been one of my quarantine MVPs.
And I mean, it's just really cool to see people doing stuff like that, like the free concerts, you know, it's neat. It's helping with that social interaction, and it's helping keep everybody's spirits up a bit. We haven't had anybody fully cancel their wedding yet. Everyone's been postponing. The biggest thing is if you are canceling, just try to be reasonable, you know, work with your vendors, try to come up with a situation that works for both of you. And it is going to vary by vendor. All we can do is do the best we can, because very few of us had anything in our contracts to handle something like this specifically. Although I have a feeling we will now. Major high five to everyone. We're doing the best we can. Keep up your spirits. The biggest thing for me, I think, that has helped a lot is staying active. And I think too many people don't realize what impact that can have on your mood and your health.
I love that. I'm a big advocate for being as active as you can. I think for me, it's the best way to relieve stress. It is stressful, but at the end of the day, eventually you are going to be able to marry your best friend. And that should be what matters most.
Absolute biggest thing. I think we're all learning more than anything that, you know, we're figuring out what's really important in life.
2020, pandemic wedding planning.
Pandemic wedding planning. Let's hope this is the only year we ever do this.
Good times, bad times, sickness, poor, pandemic.
It's a trial run, because trust me, you're starting out like this right when you're getting married. It's going to be a breeze from that point forward.
On that note, thanks guys for joining us. Good luck with everything. Bye.